Hello, beginning artists of all shapes and sizes. It is the Art Bootcamp. This is Trey, your workout partner, and today is Tuesday the 13th. We are at this intermediate stage, and today we'll be doing shapes, heads and hands, mannequin, anatomy, sculpture, and gesture. So let's get to it. The start of the workout plan is to stretch with shapes. We got our shapes layer, fade it back, new layer, press B for the brush tool, and let's say a dark green. Whoa. We're just trying to warm up. Wow, these are bad. But we're just warming up. Just warming up. Got to get that blood pumping. Have to get out of our comfort zone. Get started. Rectangles. 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 We're not going for perfection. We're just getting going. The hardest part is the start. Triangles. Triangles. Okay. Turn that off. Shapes. Move on to 3D shapes. 3D shapes. New layer. Let's change this to a dark. Ooh, let's look at the red. So we got cubes. The first one's always the worst one. Most times. Most times. You got to get warmed up. You got to start to feel it. Do you feel it? Can you feel it? Okay. Cubes, cubes, cubes. Cylinders. Cylinders. I feel like I'm regressing. I feel like I'm regressing. Okay. Okay. This is always funny. But we have to be decisive. Be decisive. We're doing it to get going. Not bad. Not great. Nah. All right. And that was shapes. 2D and 3D. Okay, next up, head and hands. But first, let's take a look at the skeleton. So I think today we're going to do an upshot of the skeleton. So, right, we have the cranium. It's cradled in my hand. And he's looking up. Ratio. My skeleton model. This would be let's just draw this. Come on. Come on, Trey, get it together. The number 4 for 40% opacity. Make a loon layer on top of this. And brush tool. So we have overall This is the cranium. And this houses all of the things, the neat things in my skull. The brain. This is line just to indicate the front facing, but everything is now skewed. Right? So now the eyebrows are here near the top. Here is the nasal cavity. And so the nose would be somewhere around here. We're looking at it foreshortened. We would have the mouth about where the teeth are and the chin. So let's do the side plane, going around the orbital bone and around the cheekbone and coming down. And the same on my left side, screen right, around the cheekbone and coming in. So my eyes would be here. All right, that is the eye line. And the nose line, here's the orbital bone. Here's my eye socket. And this is a foreshortened angle. Now let's take a look at that in the heads. So here's an upshot, not as extreme, because I'm looking at the camera to see if I got it. But here is the headshot. Now let's draw on top of this. New layer. Oh, gotta fade this back so we don't get that interference. So V, 40%. Go back to that new layer. Let's draw it out. B for the brush tool. So here is my cranium is around here. Well, this is just a basic shape, right? But the back of my skull would be somewhere around here. Here is my chin line, hairline, eyebrows, bottom of the nose, my mouth. Here's the front facing line. And we have the side plane going around my orbital bone, and the cheeks coming down towards my chin. Again, on this side, my orbital bone and my cheeks coming down here. But since we're looking, my head's tilted upwards, you can see the underside. So right here is the orbital bone, my eye socket, the nose, which is the cartilage from the skeleton. It'd be like that. The nasal cavity would be here. My eyes are here. My ears are here. But again, it's all askew because we're foreshortened upwards. Right? Things are closer here, 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 and there's more space down here. Because this is the underside, which we see some of it, but not a lot of it. Touch to my neck. but that is the head. Now let's move on to hands. So here we have a hand in the fist position, arm, forearm, whatnot. So let's fade this back. V as the move tool in Photoshop, and 4 for 40% opacity. Hit the layer for a new layer. B for the brush tool. And what I see is a box. See this? We have some sort of a box here. Right? That's approximately the hand positioning. But let's go for the fingers. Right? They're curled in this fist. And they're under the thumb. And you can indicate the nail just for positioning. There's folds and creases and whatnot, but knuckles. And that is the hand. That is the hand in the fist position. Have the forearm going into the arm. Right. And we can knock back eraser. Let's go eraser, let's say 50%. 50% erasing strength. And we can get rid of these. Well, let's knock these back. Our training wheels. Underlying structure. And that is the hand. In the fist position. Let's turn that off just to see it. And that is the fist. All right, so here we are with Mannequin and our anatomy. And we're going to map this guy out with the muscles. So let's go over this again. As we do, trapezius, shoulder along the back. It comes down like a diamond. Right. We've got the deltoid, shoulder, bicep, just in the middle, tricep on the back, right? On both sides of the back. Brachialis, right next to the bicep, well, between the bicep and the tricep. Brachioradialis, your arm and your forearm comes out a little bit, comes down and around to the inside. So it goes from the outside to the inside of your arm. We have the extensors and the flexors, right? And they help to move your fingers. But because there's so many, we just group them all together. We have the pectoralis, right, between this, covering the side of the sternum, clavicle, wrapping into your humerus bone. We have the external obliques, which would be on the lower side. We have the rectus abdominis, upper and lower. We have the gracilis, the inside of your thigh. Adductor longus, which is underneath the gracilis and is covered also by the sartorius, which comes from your hip, the outside of your hip, wraps inwards, and inserts around your the side of your knee. We have the patella and the patellar tendon, right, coming down off of that towards your ankle. Gastrocnemius, the calf muscle, right, can be seen on the inside of your leg, but also there's some on the back. We have the anterior tibialis, which is right next to the patellar tendon. We have the fibularis longus, which is on the outside of your calf. Extensor digitorum longus, right next to the anterior tibialis. Between that and the, fibularis longus, going into your ankle. Is there anything I missed? Oh, vastus lateralis, which is on the side of your thigh, the outside. Rectus femoris is this larger muscle right in the middle of your thigh. Now let's map that to this mannequin here. So let's see. There's that. New layer. Let us first break it down in simple shapes, shall we? Brush tool, let's say a red color. No, we'll do blue. Blue. Use the brackets to make the reticle smaller. And so here's the overall cranium. Right. He's looking off towards his right side. Right. So we have that line. The eyes would be more or less in the middle. We have the brow ridge, the nose line, the mouth line. We have somewhat of a side plane, right, that would wrap around the orbital bone going into your, right down into your chin. And the hairline would be near the top of the head. We can make the oval shape for the overall face. We have the box that encompasses the rib cage. Rib cage. We have a center line just to indicate body positioning. All right, we're seeing most of his body from the front, but he's looking off over more towards his right side. Circles for joints. So we got the shoulder, the elbows, wrist. We have the knees, ankles. Don't forget the box for the pelvis. We have cylinders for arms. Cylinder. Cylinders for the thighs. And cylinders for the lower leg. All right, we do the feet, which are just crude shapes. Let's turn off the model layer, the mannequin layer, I'm sorry. Let's give him some hands. Let's give him a hand. Ha ha. I'm sorry. Simple, simple, simple. All right, and that is our mannequin. Let's make a new layer, and let's do some muscles. Muscle and muscles. Let's do this in red, or a reddish. Okay, so we have the trapezius, right? But it also goes on the back. It's almost like that. But we can't see that from this front side. We have the deltoid. We have the pectoralis, right? The sternum and the clavicle. We got that. Let's see. The bicep, the tricep, and the brachialis would be in between the two, right? Bicep on the back. What else? The brachioradialis would come here and go in towards the inside of your forearm. You have the extensors and the flexors muscle groups that help move your digits, your fingers. What else? We have the external obliques. We have rectus abdominis. Upper, here's the belly button. Right, and then the lower part goes into the pelvis. We have the gracilis inside of the thigh. All right, gracilis. We have the adductor longus underneath that. And the sartorius coming from the hip, wrapping inside towards that knee. We have the vastus lateralis on the outside of the hip, well, of the thigh, I'm sorry. And rectus femoris along the middle. We have the patella. Patella. It looks like an ice cream cone. And the patellar tendon comes down towards the ankle. Gastrocnemius, calf muscle. On the inside of your calf, we have the anterior tibialis next to the patellar tendon, going down towards the ankle. The extensor digitorum longus is next to the anterior tibialis. What else? Fibularis longus is on the outside of the calf. think that's all of it. But these are just the simple. I figure this is a great starting amount. If you want to do more, learn more of the muscles, feel free. But I think a good starting base will deepen our learnings as we go on. Now let's do a statue. We are continuing with the Davids. This was David from yesterday. And now let's do, should we do Donatello's David? Keep the Ninja Turtles together. Michelangelo and Donnie. Okay. So let's shift him over to the side. Donatello. All right. Different than the Michelangelo version. This is after the action. Here is the head of, this is David, and this is Goliath's head. The giant that has just been slain by the rock. He pitched at this guy. And let's see. Let's drop him back. So V and 50. Let's try 50. Maybe 40. So this is in bronze. It's a little darker than that, the marble statue. So we'll drop him back just a little bit more. Okay, layer on top of this. And first, let's do the box forms, or simple shapes. P for the brush tool. So we got, see through this, his head somewhere around here. All right, we'll do the oval. He's looking this way. And so we have a side plane. And there's a highlight on his cheek that the light is hitting. So we'll move along that and use that as a side plane. His ear is about here. So here's his nose line. Here's his eye line. His mouth line. His brow. His hair is somewhere around here. But he's looking downwards. And the box is about here. He's got some contrapposto. Remember that? He's got this going on, right? You see that? Swoosh. This is his dominant leg. His right leg is his dominant leg. His other leg is kind of rudely on his enemy's head. But his angled shoulders, angled hips. So there and there. So this is the side plane, because we can see the highlight. See his pectoralis, right? Going into his ribs. So we'll put that as the side plane. This is his center line. So he's got this little dip. Very lightly. That S curve. So his hips. That contrapposto. And you can see the light hitting all of this. Right? That whole side plane. So you can do it like that. That's why I like forms in light, where you can see light hitting certain surfaces and moving along it. Okay. So his joints are circles. Circles for the shoulders, elbows, elbows, wrist, wrist, knee, knee, and cylinders for the limbs. And lower legs. Lower leg. Ankle. It's foot. This hand is holding a rock. And I think this is a signifier that this is David. Yeah. Vanquishing his, well, standing upon his vanquished enemy. And that is David. I think this is his foot behind the head. So his ankle would be somewhere around here. His foot. Now let's do the anatomy. New layer. There's somewhat red. Okay. So we have his pectoralis. Pectoralis. The center line where his sternum is. His clavicle, I believe, is here. The deltoid. Deltoid. We have the bicep. Tricep would be on the back. And the brachialis is between the two. So bicep, tricep, and the brachialis between the two. We have the brachioradialis from the outside of the forearm coming to the inside. So have extensors and flexors of the forearm going into the wrist. This abdominis. Here's his belly button. There's that indentation. He's not as muscular as the Michelangelo's David, but he looks more of a youth. A ute. And there's the lower rectus abdominis going into his pelvis. We have the gracilis. The gracilis on the inside of the thigh. We have the adductor longus underneath. So we have the gracilis. Adductor longus. The sartorius coming from the outside hip, wrapping into the inside. All right, so here, wrapping towards the inside. The rectus femoris, the main part, the center. The vastus lateralis. Vastus lateralis. We have the patella. Patella. And the patellar tendon coming down towards the ankle. Gastrocnemius, on the calf, inside. Anterior tibialis, right next to the patellar tendon. The extensor digitorum longus is next to that, going towards the ankle. And the fibularis longus, or the peroneus muscle, on the outside of the calf. And that is the external obliques, the trapezius, let's see. Those are his muscles. All right. And that is the anatomy of both the mannequin and statuary. In this case being Donatello's David. It's time for gesture. I believe today we're going to do, what did we say it was? Cowboys? So I have no reference. We're just gonna shoot from the hip, as they say. Ha 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 ha. I'm sorry. So new layer. It would help if the layer was visible. There we go. So these are examples of gesture drawings. Just loose, quick sketches to get an idea of ideas for, say, illustrations or paintings or whatever you want to do artistically with your character. It's a short little breakdown of the action, situation, or character in varying poses. Some more. I kind of like this one. But you're working on dynamism. Sometimes, you're just trying to see things. How would that work? Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they do. But you're just trying to work out ideas. So let's do it. Cowboy. So sometimes it helps me to write down like a list of things. So say gunfighter. What else? Shoot out. Sometimes it's just a simple pose, right? My grandfather used to draw cowboys with like bow legs. They'd always look like something like this. Right? But it's just to work out ideas. So let's see. I usually think of them being kind of cool, right? So say he has his hat on and his hat's down, his head's down, right? And he's got his arms folded. And he's, the dominant leg, maybe something like that. And of course he has to have the gun on the hip. So this is just, you're trying to get out your ideas about what the subject is and what the subject is doing. What else? Of course, you have the classic standoff, right? Where he's standing, you got your gun, holster, and say, right? And say you have the bad guy, and this is the bad guy's gun. But he's huge in the frame, right? So they would be, say, in the center of the frame. Well, not the center, but you see the silhouette of the bad guy. And the most defined part is the gun. All right, so this is just, all right. And if you had the camera, say this would be the camera frame. So all of this would be in shadow, or just the silhouette of your bad guy. But you see the gun very distinctly. And you can go from him being the focus to this being the focus, and then back, to make it cinematic. What am I doing? He has to have a hat, right? Yeah, that's, you're just trying to figure out what the scene is, or what the character's doing. What else? You could have him shooting the gun, right? We want more drama, more. What I like about doing gestures is that if you find something you like, you can then dissect that to then make it even more dramatic. Right? So if we're just doing stick figures, his arms could be, his legs could be more spread. And the gun more pronounced. You can have effects. All right. All right. Whatever you need, do whatever you need to do to get the right amount of action, right? Because whatever makes a better image, you gotta think about these things. Like, this one's better than this one, but that's how it goes. This is just a first idea. Second idea, the third idea, you can build up on top of that. Sometimes you can build upon ideas, like if you have another drawing and you're like, hey, that drawing and this drawing could be like, you can make an in-between between the two. Whatever helps you make a better image. That's what it's all about. Because the average audience doesn't see all the work that goes into crafting an image. Right? They can appreciate the final image, but they don't see all the steps that you use to get there. You could have a wide shot of, say, prairie lands. Right? You got the low horizon. You got the sun setting. And maybe you have our cowboy on his horse. Right? And he's just a shadow. Maybe there's, I don't know, cacti. Right? And sometimes this is just how your first ideas start, right? With just a silly little scratch. And then you're like, how could I make this more dramatic? Well, one, you could get reference to compose a scene that you can look at cinematography. Maybe there's a shot from a Western you saw that you really liked and you want something like that. You can do different angles. You can do lower shots. You can do higher shots. You can look at him from behind, like he's riding off on his horse. He's riding towards the camera on his horse. There's so much that can go into an image. But here you're just working out. And it doesn't even have to make sense to other people. Right? You're just making an image for yourself. Just to work it out. I don't know, maybe there's a band of outlaws, and all you can see there is their silhouette, and they're hot on his trail. He could be the good guy. He could be the bad guy. I don't know. Right. Who knows? uh, yeah. The cacti's been shot. I don't, he's shooting at them and they're shooting back. And you got bullet sounds. Right? Got the sun maybe low behind. But it's all about trying to find that image. And you can work on it as long as you feel like. When you find that image, that little thumbnail that goes, ooh, I like that. Let's make that into something. Maybe he's leading his horse. Right? He's dying of thirst. And the sun is just high in the sky. And the vultures are starting to fly. But yeah, that's gesture. Cowboys was the theme of the day. You got the cowboy on the horse in the desert. Cowboy being run down by his enemies while he's shooting back. Cowboy lean. We have him drawing his gun and firing. Leading his horse in the dry, dusty desert. And the shootout with the Shadow Man. I don't know. Visual storytelling tool. There we go. Gestures. So let's look at the schedule. I think that's all we had today. Yes. On this Tuesday, the 13th, we went over shapes, heads and hands, mannequin, anatomy, sculpture, and gesture. Tomorrow is the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. Where we will do shapes, heads and hands, mannequin, anatomy, sculpture, gesture, and 1 point perspective. I think we'll do maybe an interior. I'm not sure. something just a slightly more complex, but still relatively basic. And that'll be on top tip for tomorrow. So we did it, workout partner. And I will see you on the next video. Take care.